If you've ever been diagnosed with an MRI, with a heel spur, then you should listen to what I'm about to say. Hi everyone, Steve Gonzer, physical therapist with Run Smart Online. I help runners get over injury and get back to running faster, whether it's through smarter training plans or strength training. And a common thing that I hear of when someone comes in is, should I get an MRI to know what's going on before we start treatment? And the second thing I hear quite often is, like, I have this, is it going to go away? And I want to be really clear, like, for all of you, your body, doesn't matter who you are, is going to break down over time. So what I want to talk about is what's normal breakdown. How do you break down at the right rate and make sure that you're not breaking down too quickly. If you're interested in learning more, there's a link in this post, or you can just go to runsmartapp.com. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to talk about, the fixes for these things, are inside our Run Smart app. But I'm going to start off with heel spurs. So a runner came in this week. I have a heel spur. Do I need surgery? How did this happen? And I want to outline some research in heel spurs. And I'm also going to talk about the meniscus a bit, because they're very similar. Like, if you went out and got an MRI, you better be sure, or you better know that you're going to find something wrong. A surgeon long ago once told me, you can't unsee an MRI, and there's so much truth to that. And we often don't like to have an MRI early in treatment because A, it messes with your mind and you know something's wrong, and B, you're going to find something anyway. So let's not open a can of worms that probably doesn't need to be opened. Now, this is not to be made certain that you never need an MRI, that there's no need to get one. There are instances to get one, but I want to show you a couple things here. So a heel spur, this is the first thing I want to show you. I don't even think this needs to be labeled because that's pretty evident on the back of the heel there. A lot of people are diagnosed with these heel spurs, and they're thought to be like, oh, you get plantar fasciitis, so you have that heel spur, and it looks pretty gruesome. But when we look at the research and we look at what we know about the body, I want to share some things that can really help you guys make smarter decisions, because this is something that I had this week with a runner who came in. So I was actually going through and doing some research. It's been a while. I knew this existed, but it's been a while. So I found this this outline of an article I'm going to share with you, and I actually dug in a little bit deeper. But if you look here, in one of the studies, the calcaneal spurs have been recorded in 45 to 85% with patients with plantar fasciitis, but also 10% to 63% of asymptomatic controls. So what does that mean? Is that people with plantar fasciitis, a lot of them have heel spurs, and then upwards, it depends what you read there, 10 to 63% have heel spurs and they don't have plantar fasciitis. So it's really a crapshoot to say I have plantar fasciitis because of a heel spur. I went into and looked at another article, and really what I need you guys to be focused on with this is that if you have a heel spur, it may not mean anything. It might not mean that you need to do anything. It certainly could mean you need to do something, but this study that I looked at, that I went into next, it just talks about, where's the title of this sucker? Looking at like x-rays and things, and what they pretty much concluded was that the key radiological features, so the key imaging like x-rays that differentiate age groups, were not spurs, but rather changes in soft tissue for people with plantar fasciitis. If you have plantar fasciitis, a spur really means nothing. It means that it could be there, it could not be there, and actually most of the research that we're seeing now, it says that the spur may indicate foot pain, but in actuality, it doesn't even attach. That spur is not even where the plantar fascia is. And what was once thought is you have a spur and it caused plantar fasciitis, is now you have plantar fasciitis and you have a spur. And a lot of times these spurs are completely asymptomatic. They don't cause any problems. So I really, encourage you guys, if you have plantar fasciitis, you know someone who has a spur, don't overreact. And don't always push for the imaging. And here's another reason why. And maybe you guys can let me know in the comments. You don't have to. But meniscus tears are huge. And meniscus are shock absorbers inside your knee. So when you impact the ground, they absorb some of that shock. What most runners don't realize, and people in general don't realize, is that as you age, the meniscus breaks down. So you want to try to protect that, right? And how do you... I'm going to show, actually let me just go and I'll show you this now. This is super clean. I actually just pulled up an old presentation that I've given before because it's important to know that MRIs can be deceiving. So this chart right here is from a research study that looked at meniscus tears by age group. So let's just start down here. People 50 to 59, and you start to see, okay, like of women, nearly 15% of women have a meniscus tear. 30% of men have meniscus tear. And what happens as we get older? Up and to the right, meniscus tears are more prevalent when we get older. And want to know the cool thing about this? Maybe it's not cool, but in this chart, where you see like, okay, let's look here, 50% of men between 70 and 90 have a meniscus tear, and 30% of men between 50 and 59 have a meniscus tear. All these people in this study, no symptoms. Their knees are fine, they're doing everything they want to do. So what does that mean? Is you can have a meniscus tear and have a pain-free lifestyle. And I see it quite often. I treat a ton of people with what's called a degenerative meniscus tear. If you can be patient and you can have the right mindset and you can give enough time, not everyone, but a large percentage of people do fine with rehab. They just need some physical therapy. They need some TLC. They need some guidance on how to handle things. And that's true. So how do you protect yourself? How do you make sure, whether it's a heel spur or if it's a meniscus tear, how do you make sure that things don't degrade over time? The biggest thing is to support your body with balance and core strength and really glute strength. The glute is the key thing. That big glute muscle, the peach on the back, is the thing that controls most of the lower leg when you're running. Unfortunately, just like I'm doing right now, most of us sit on our ass all day working, and we lose our glute strength, which we lose control, and these things start to wear down faster. So biggest take-home message is this, is that be careful about getting an MRI for no reason, because a lot of times, not always, and in fact there are times to get an MRI, but it's often overutilized because people want to know what's going on, and it usually just kills their mentality. And as someone who helps people get back on the road without having surgery or after surgery, it's really hard to have someone get better if they're consistently worried about something because of what an MRI said. So whether it's the knee, it's the meniscus, it's a labral tear, we see that a lot in the hip. A lot of these things, not all of them can heal. I don't want to be mistaken. They're not all going to heal without surgical intervention, but a good chunk of them can. So, and this goes back to some of the questions in here. Pam asked about Haglund's deformity on future, do it on a future live. Haglund's deformity, depending on the severity, which is it's like a spur on the heel, but on the other end. Actually, I'll show this to you. So if anyone's ever had Haglund's deformity, let me pull this up. So it's just another way of looking at a spur. Wait for it. Gotta refresh this. Oh, it's not gonna show up now. Come on. All right, well, there we go, Pam. Can't show you. Oh, there we go. Wait for it. So we see this spur down here. Haglund's deformity is when you have a spur up here. This is generally done because the Achilles is pulling too hard on the top side of the heel. This can be symptomatic, and it's usually done from overuse and tightness that causes extra pulling on the bone, but completely preventable. And truthfully, I've seen people have surgery and not have surgery on it. You know, if you haven't had proper rehab for a while, I would definitely go that route, because the surgery is not pretty, and sometimes it doesn't. It leaves you in the same spot, but that's another pretty common one. So how do you know if you have a meniscus tear with no pain? That's a great question. I would assume if you're over the age of 50, I would almost assume that you have a meniscus tear, which is not probably a good thing that you want to hear. But I think, just to reiterate, you will have these things break down. Labrum in your hip, meniscus in your knee, plantar fascia, Achilles, these things wear down. But here's the best thing about your body, is if your body could not break down, if your body could not manage the breakdown or handle breaking down, you would be falling apart. You wouldn't be able to go out and run. So your body is strong, your body is resilient. Sometimes you have to take time off and rebuild things, but just know that there's a chance that you have something going on. Same thing with the low back. When you have a disc herniation, a lot of people have disc herniations that never even know it, because the body's able to compensate and work through that. So just stay with it. Keep working on core strength. Keep working on knee health through glute strength, things like that. If you want some help, go to the link in this post or go to runsmartapp.com. Try our Base 3 or Basics Bootcamp. That's probably the best place to start. But in all, hopefully you guys know now that my daughter is screaming, and things do break down over time. So I'm going to go check that out. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.